Once again, the silence of the pre-dawn is broken not by nature, but by the controlled fury of human ambition reaching for the heavens. A pillar of fire ascends, a temporary star against the dark canvas, carrying with it another carefully packaged piece of our technological future. This is not just another launch. It is a steady, rhythmic pulse, the drumbeat of a new era being written in the vacuum above. With each successful ascent, another thread is woven into a complex tapestry that now envelops our entire world, a structure of immense potential. We watch the fire diminish into a point of light, but its cargo is just beginning the most critical phase of its long journey. What exactly was carried beyond the grasp of gravity on this latest voyage? The answer is both simple and profoundly transformative for civilization. Inside the fairing rests not a single monolithic instrument, but a cluster of advanced satellites, each a node in a burgeoning global network. These are the building blocks of a mega-constellation, an orbital architecture designed to fundamentally alter our connection to information and to each other. A rocket performs its duty with balletic precision, a carefully choreographed sequence of burns and separations that has become almost routine, yet remains breathtaking. Far above the blue marble of Earth, the mission transitions from brute force ascent to the delicate task of deployment in the void. A cascade of satellites is released, spreading out like seeds cast into the fertile darkness of low Earth orbit, ready to take their place. Each unit, a marvel of miniaturization and efficiency, begins its automated sequence, unfurling solar arrays to draw power from our star. They join thousands of others already in position, their orbits meticulously calculated to form an interlocking mesh of continuous coverage around the planet. This relentless campaign of launches is an act of creation on a planetary scale, the construction of a utility unlike any in human history. But to understand what truly happened, we must look beyond the spectacle and analyze the intricate mechanics of this orbital ballet. Why this specific orbit? Why this cadence of deployment? The answers lie in the fundamental physics that govern this celestial engineering project. We are witnessing the assembly of a communications backbone in space, a system intended to reach the most remote corners of our world. The goal is ambitious, to provide high-speed connectivity from any point on the Earth's surface, transcending terrestrial infrastructure and its limitations. This recent batch of satellites will fill gaps in the existing network, increasing its density, its speed, and its overall resilience. Let us explore the journey of a single satellite from this launch, from its release to its final operational position in the grand constellation. Once deployed, each satellite uses its own onboard propulsion system, a gentle but persistent thrust to navigate the final leg of its journey. This is a slow, methodical orbit-raising process, a climb lasting weeks or months, as it spirals outward to its designated altitude and inclination. Ground stations across the globe monitor its health, communicating with the nascent intelligence as it prepares to join the collective network. The system is designed with redundancy and precision, a self-organizing swarm that is becoming a permanent feature of near-Earth space. The sheer number of these objects creates a new reality for astronomers and for the long-term stewardship of our orbital environment. Understanding this launch is to understand a paradigm shift in how humanity interacts with space, from a place of exploration to one of infrastructure. The glow of our cities at night is a testament to our terrestrial networks. This new network creates a similar glow, unseen in the spectrum of information. We are wrapping our planet in a digital nervous system, and this launch just added dozens of new, highly advanced neurons to the construct. The implications extend far beyond simple internet access, touching upon global logistics, scientific research, and international strategic balances. To truly grasp what happened, we must delve deeper into the technology itself and the orbital mechanics that make this audacious project possible. Each satellite is more than a simple relay. It is an autonomous, laser-linked data router in the sky, a node in a celestial cloud. The light-speed communication between the satellites themselves is what sets this system apart, creating a low-latency path through the vacuum of space. This is the core innovation at play, turning a collection of individual satellites into a single, cohesive, and intelligent orbital mesh. So, as we track the ascent of this latest payload, we are tracking the reinforcement and expansion of this revolutionary communications architecture. The launch vehicle, the Falcon 9, has become the workhorse of this endeavor, its reusability making this incredible launch cadence economically feasible. The return and landing of the first stage booster, now a familiar sight, is a critical component of this entire operational model. What we have just witnessed is therefore a complete cycle: launch, deployment, and recovery, all optimized to build this constellation with unprecedented speed. This system represents a new layer of human activity, one that exists permanently above the atmosphere, silent and largely invisible to us below. The consequences of weaving this network are still unfolding, prompting vital conversations about space debris, access, and the future of our night sky. The event was not merely a launch, but an act that has subtly and permanently changed the environment just beyond our world. Each satellite now begins its commissioning phase, a series of tests and calibrations to ensure it is ready to handle live data traffic. Join us as we dissect the orbital mechanics, the communication technology, and the grand vision behind this relentless push into low Earth orbit. This is the story of what happened after the fire faded, a quiet and methodical process of knitting together our planet in a new way. We are moving from a world connected by undersea cables to one supplemented by laser light passing through the vacuum just overhead. The launch was the dramatic beginning, but the true event is the subtle, silent integration of these new minds into the orbital machine. It is a story of immense complexity, of challenges overcome, and of a future being built one launch at a time, high above us. The cosmic ballet of orbital insertion is now underway for this new batch, a delicate dance governed by the universal laws of gravitation. Let's analyze the precise orbital shell these satellites are targeting, and understand why this specific altitude is so critical to the network's design. The silent expansion of this technological sphere of influence around our planet marks a significant chapter in the human story of exploration. The journey has just begun. Now we venture into the technical heart of the mission to understand its profound mechanics and implications. Following the separation from the rocket's second stage, the satellites are not yet at their final destination. They are delivered into what is known as a, quote, parking orbit, a temporary, lower altitude trajectory meticulously chosen for safety and efficiency. This initial orbit, typically around 300 kilometers, is a crucial waypoint. Here, the satellites undergo their first system checkouts in the harsh vacuum of space, far enough from the dense lower atmosphere to avoid significant drag, but low enough that any non-functional unit will naturally deorbit and burn up within a few years, a key principle of responsible space stewardship designed to mitigate the proliferation of orbital debris. It is a cosmic waiting room, a place of transition from passenger to independent vessel. The deployment itself is a moment of profound mechanical precision. The satellites are not simply pushed out. They are released from a dispenser, often with a slight spin imparted for stability. This process is carefully engineered to ensure each unit separates cleanly and at a slightly different velocity, preventing any immediate recontact. The dispenser acts like a spring-loaded Pez dispenser for the cosmos, releasing its payload in a timed sequence. The relative speeds are small, but over time they cause the satellites to drift apart, forming a string of pearls along the orbital path. This initial separation is the first step in establishing the vast spacing required for the constellation to function without interfering with itself, a slow, deliberate dispersal into the void. Once free, each satellite awakens. A sequence of commands, either pre-programmed or sent from ground control, initiates the most vital step: the unfurling of the solar array. A single, large wing covered in photovoltaic cells deploys, transforming the compact transport configuration into a vessel capable of generating its own power. This is the satellite's first breath, the moment it begins to harness the inexhaustible energy of the sun. This power is essential not just for its communications payload, but for the next and most arduous phase of its journey, the long climb to its operational altitude. The health of this power system is the primary determinant of the mission's success from this point forward. The propulsion system that will carry the satellite on this climb is a masterpiece of efficiency. Unlike the chemical rockets that brought it to orbit, these satellites use electric propulsion, specifically Hall effect thrusters. These engines work by accelerating ions of a noble gas, in this case krypton, to very high speeds using electric and magnetic fields. While the thrust produced is incredibly gentle, comparable to the force of a single piece of paper resting on your hand. It is fantastically efficient. This high specific impulse means that a small amount of propellant can produce a large change in velocity over time, making it the perfect technology for the long, patient process of raising an orbit. The orbit-raising phase is a slow, graceful spiral that can last for several months. The satellite continuously fires its Hall-effect thruster, but only when it is moving in the direction of its orbit. This persistent, low-thrust push gradually adds energy to the orbit, causing it to expand. With each pass around the Earth, the apogee, the highest point in the orbit, gets a little higher. The path is not a simple direct climb, but an elegant, widening gyre around the planet. Ground controllers monitor this process with extreme care, making minute adjustments to the thrust vector to ensure the satellite remains on its precise, calculated trajectory towards its designated slot in the constellation's grand architecture. The final destination for this batch of satellites is an orbital shell located at approximately 550 kilometers altitude. This specific height is a carefully calculated compromise. It is high enough to provide a wide field of view of the Earth's surface, allowing each satellite to serve a large area. Yet, it is low enough that the round-trip time for a signal, the latency, is significantly lower than that of traditional geostationary satellites, which orbit at over 35,000 kilometers. This low latency characteristic is the cornerstone of the network's design, enabling applications like real-time gaming and financial transactions that are impossible with older satellite technology. The physics of orbital altitude directly dictates the performance of the entire system. The constellation is not a single ring, but is composed of multiple distinct orbital planes, each tilted at a specific angle relative to the equator, and inclination. This latest launch is targeted to populate a specific plane, filling in gaps or adding density to a particular region of the network. Imagine Earth as a sphere of yarn. The orbital planes are the individual strands wrapping around it at different angles. By precisely populating these planes, the system can ensure that from any point on the ground, at least one satellite is always in direct line of sight, overhead. The launch trajectory and deployment timing are all calculated to deliver this batch of satellites to the correct on-ramp for their designated plane. Once a satellite reaches its operational altitude of 550 kilometers, its work is not yet finished. It must then execute a series of precise burns to circularize its orbit and align itself perfectly within its orbital plane, matching the speed and trajectory of its neighbors. It must find its place in the celestial traffic, maintaining a safe and consistent distance from the satellites both ahead of and behind it. This final station keeping is a delicate act, requiring constant, minor adjustments managed by autonomous onboard systems in communication with ground control. It is the moment the satellite ceases its long climb and becomes a permanent resident of its new orbital home. The true revolution of this network, however, is not its altitude but its method of communication. Each satellite is equipped with optical intersatellite links, commonly known as space lasers. These are highly advanced systems that can transmit enormous amounts of data by sending tightly focused beams of light to other satellites in the constellation. This creates a mesh network in the vacuum of space. Instead of a signal going from a user on the ground up to a satellite and back down to a ground station, it can now travel up to the nearest satellite and then be relayed from satellite to satellite via these laser links, traversing thousands of kilometers in space before being sent back down to its destination. The use of laser links is a fundamental paradigm shift. Light travels approximately 47% faster in the vacuum of space than it does through the dense glass of fiber optic cables. By routing data through the orbital mesh, the system can often find a shorter and faster path between two distant points on Earth than is possible with terrestrial infrastructure. An intercontinental data transfer no longer needs to follow the winding path of undersea cables. It can instead take a more direct, great circle route through the frictionless void. This batch of satellites adds more nodes to this mesh, increasing its capacity and creating more potential pathways, making the entire network more robust and faster. Establishing a stable laser link between two satellites, moving at over 27,000 kilometers per hour, hundreds or thousands of kilometers apart, is an immense technical challenge. The system is akin to trying to hit a coin from 30 kilometers away with a laser pointer. Each satellite has multiple optical heads on gimbals that must autonomously locate, track, and lock onto their counterparts on neighboring satellites. The pointing accuracy required is measured in microradians, a tiny fraction of a single degree. This is the hidden, silent ballet that unfolds in orbit. A constant, high-speed, ultra-precise dance of light beams that forms the backbone of this new global utility. Once a satellite has reached its final orbital slot, it enters the commissioning phase. This is a period of intensive testing and calibration. Ground controllers methodically check every subsystem: power, thermal regulation, propulsion, and, most importantly, the communications payload. They test the phased array antennas that communicate with the ground, ensuring they can form and steer beams accurately. They then begin the delicate process of activating the laser links, instructing the satellite to connect with its neighbors one by one, verifying the stability and throughput of each connection. Only after passing this exhaustive battery of tests is the satellite deemed fully operational and integrated into the global network. The phased array antenna technology is central to the satellite's function. Unlike a traditional satellite dish that must be physically pointed, a phased array antenna is a flat panel that can steer its radio beam electronically. This allows a single satellite to communicate with multiple users on the ground simultaneously, creating individual spot beams for each terminal. As the satellite moves across the sky, it can maintain a continuous connection with the user by rapidly adjusting the direction of its beam, a process that is completely seamless to the end user. This technology is what allows a constellation in low Earth orbit, constantly moving relative to the ground, to provide uninterrupted service. The overall architecture of the Starlink constellation is designed for resilience. The mesh network means there is no single point of failure. If one satellite were to malfunction, or if a particular laser link were to be temporarily obstructed, the network's routing protocol would automatically and instantaneously find an alternate path for the data to travel. This is modeled on the same foundational principles that govern the terrestrial internet. The addition of each new batch of satellites, like the one just launched, strengthens this resilience, adding more nodes and more potential pathways, making the system increasingly robust and less susceptible to disruption, either from technical faults or external interference. The command and control of such a vast fleet of satellites is a monumental task that relies heavily on automation. A global network of ground stations known as gateways provides the primary link between the satellite constellation and the terrestrial internet. These stations also serve as the communication hubs for telemetry, tracking, and control, constantly uploading commands and downloading health data. However, the satellites themselves possess a high degree of autonomy, capable of managing their own station keeping, collision avoidance maneuvers, and laser link targeting. This reduces the burden on human operators and allows the system to scale to tens of thousands of individual nodes. Collision avoidance is a critical and continuous process for the constellation. Low Earth orbit is an increasingly crowded environment, populated by active satellites, dead satellites, spent rocket stages, and countless pieces of smaller debris. The Starlink system uses a combination of ground-based tracking data from organizations like the U.S. Space Force and its own onboard sensors to predict potential conjunctions or close approaches. When a high-probability collision is predicted, the satellite can autonomously use its Hall-effect thruster to perform a small avoidance maneuver, slightly altering its orbit to ensure a safe passage. This automated system is essential for operating a mega-constellation of this scale. A key design philosophy behind this project is end-of-life management. Every satellite is engineered with a plan for its own disposal. They are designed for a service life of approximately 5 to 7 years. As a satellite approaches the end of this period, or if it suffers a critical malfunction, it is commanded to use the remainder of its Krypton propellant to lower its orbit. This controlled deorbit maneuver significantly accelerates its re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, where it is designed to completely burn up, leaving no surviving debris. This proactive approach is a vital component of the project's strategy to maintain the long-term sustainability of the low Earth orbit environment. The impact of this recent launch extends beyond just adding capacity. The satellites themselves are iterative. Newer batches often contain upgraded technology compared to their predecessors. They may have more powerful antennas, higher bandwidth laser links, or more efficient electronics. SpaceX continuously refines the design based on the performance of the satellites already in orbit. Therefore, this launch was not just about quantity. It was about quality. introducing the next generation of hardware into the ecosystem. This rapid, iterative development cycle, enabled by the high launch cadence, allows the constellation's capabilities to evolve and improve at a pace previously unheard of in the aerospace industry. The successful deployment of this batch has immediate consequences for global coverage. The new satellites will improve service in existing areas, reducing the likelihood of dropouts and increasing the average data speeds available to users. More importantly, they will help expand the service footprint into new regions, particularly those at higher latitudes that are more difficult to serve from equatorial orbits. The constellation's geometry means that service in polar regions requires a high density of satellites and inclined orbital planes. This launch directly contributes to building out that necessary density, bringing high-speed connectivity one step closer for remote communities in the Arctic and Antarctic circles. The economic model underpinning this entire endeavor is driven by the reusability of the Falcon 9 launch vehicle. The ability to recover and refly the first stage booster dramatically reduces the cost of access to space. Without this capability, the launch cadence required to build and maintain a mega-constellation of this size would be economically prohibitive. Each successful launch and landing cycle, like the one we just witnessed, is not just a technical spectacle. It is a validation of the business case that makes this planetary-scale infrastructure project feasible. The cost per satellite delivered to orbit is the key metric that governs the entire operation's viability. Beyond consumer internet, the system has profound implications for scientific research. Remote scientific outposts, from Antarctic research stations to oceanographic buoys in the middle of the Pacific, have historically been limited by extremely low bandwidth satellite links. This constellation provides the ability to stream high-resolution data in real time from virtually anywhere on the planet. This will revolutionize fields like climate science, seismology, and volcanology, allowing scientists to monitor Earth systems with unprecedented fidelity. The launch of this new batch of satellites directly enhances our planet's ability to study itself, creating a more connected and data-rich scientific ecosystem for all. The logistical achievement of producing these satellites at scale is as impressive as the launch itself. A traditional satellite can take years to build by hand in a cleanroom. To support its rapid launch cadence, SpaceX has had to pioneer mass production techniques for spacecraft. Their factory in Redmond, Washington, is an assembly line for satellites, capable of producing multiple units per day. This shift from bespoke craftsmanship to high-volume manufacturing is a crucial, though often overlooked, aspect of what happened. This latest batch represents just a few days' worth of production from a facility that is fundamentally changing the economics and timescale of space hardware. The presence of this ever-growing constellation has opened a new chapter in astronomy. While the satellites are designed to be minimally reflective, their sheer numbers mean they can appear as streaks in long-exposure astronomical images. This has prompted a significant collaboration between SpaceX and the astronomical community to mitigate this impact. Newer satellites, including those in this recent launch, are equipped with features like dielectric mirror films and revised operational attitudes to reduce their brightness as seen from the ground. This ongoing effort represents a critical dialogue about how to balance the development of space-based infrastructure with the preservation of our view of the cosmos. From a geopolitical perspective, the ownership and control of a global high-speed communication network represents a significant strategic asset. It provides a layer of communication that is independent of terrestrial infrastructure, which can be vulnerable to natural disasters or deliberate disruption. This has obvious applications for national security, disaster response, and ensuring continuity of government and economic functions during a crisis. The addition of this new batch of satellites further solidifies the network's capabilities, making it a more integral part of the global communications infrastructure and, by extension, a factor in international relations and strategic planning for nations around the world. The user terminal, the small dish that connects a home or vehicle to the network, is the other half of this technological equation. These terminals are also sophisticated phased array antennas, capable of electronically tracking the fast-moving satellites across the sky. They must be able to seamlessly hand off the connection from a satellite that is setting below the horizon to one that is just rising, without any interruption in service. The software that orchestrates this constant rapid handoff is incredibly complex. The successful operation of the ground segment is just as critical as the orbital segment. and the growing number of satellites requires this software to become ever more intelligent and predictive. Let us reconsider the scale of this operation. The total number of active satellites in orbit as a result of this project has single-handedly dwarfed the number from all other operators combined. This represents a fundamental change in the character of low Earth orbit. What was once a vast, sparsely populated frontier is rapidly becoming a managed, utilized, and increasingly dense volume of space. This ongoing launch campaign is the primary driver of that transformation. What we are witnessing is not just the growth of a company or a service, but the industrialization of the space just above our heads, a process with consequences that will unfold for decades to come. The data that flows through this network is encrypted end-to-end, providing a secure communications channel. For many applications, from corporate data to personal communications, this level of security is paramount. The space-based laser link mesh adds another layer of security, as intercepting a tightly focused laser beam in the vacuum of space is physically far more difficult than tapping a terrestrial fiber optic cable. As this latest batch of satellites is integrated, the network's ability to route traffic predominantly through space, minimizing its time on terrestrial networks, is enhanced, thereby strengthening the overall security posture of the entire system. The choice of Krypton over the more traditionally used xenon for the Hall effect thrusters was a strategic decision driven by supply chain and cost. While xenon offers slightly better performance, it is rare and expensive. Krypton is more abundant and therefore significantly cheaper, which is a critical factor when manufacturing thousands of satellites. This seemingly minor technical choice is indicative of the entire project's philosophy, optimizing every component and process for mass production and cost-effectiveness. This launch is a direct result of that philosophy, which prioritizes practicality and scalability in the quest to build a truly global utility. The regulatory landscape for such a vast constellation is complex and international. SpaceX requires licenses from the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, in the United States, and approvals from regulators in every country where it wishes to offer service. It also must coordinate its orbital use through the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, to ensure its frequencies do not interfere with other satellite systems. The success of this launch is therefore not only a technical achievement, but also the culmination of a long and complex legal and diplomatic process. Each satellite that powers on and begins transmitting is operating within a framework of international agreements that govern the shared resource of outer space. This launch also served as a data-gathering opportunity. Each ascent of a Falcon 9 is monitored by thousands of sensors, providing engineers with a wealth of information about the vehicle's performance. This data is used to assess the health of the engines, the structural loads on the airframe, and the efficiency of the flight profile. This continuous feedback loop is what has allowed for the rocket's remarkable reliability and the steady improvement of its reuse procedures. So while the primary mission was to deliver the satellites, a secondary and equally important mission was to learn, to refine the system, and to make the next launch even safer and more efficient. The system's ability to provide connectivity to mobile platforms is one of its most transformative aspects. The phased array antennas are being adapted for use on aircraft, ships, and large vehicles, allowing for high-speed internet access while in motion. For the airline industry, this means offering reliable, fast Wi-Fi from gate to gate. For the shipping industry, it means better logistics, crew welfare, and real-time monitoring of vessels at sea. This latest batch of satellites contributes directly to the bandwidth and coverage needed to serve these high-demand, high-mobility markets, effectively blanketing our planet's transportation corridors with a new layer of data. The energy budget of each satellite is a finely tuned balancing act. The single solar array must generate enough power to run the communication systems, the laser links, the propulsion unit, and all the onboard computers and thermal controls. When the satellite passes into Earth's shadow, as it does on every orbit, it must rely on rechargeable batteries. The health and longevity of these batteries are a primary determinant of the satellite's operational lifespan. The engineers must constantly monitor power generation and consumption, ensuring that the satellite operates within its designed limits to maximize its time in service. The software that runs on these satellites is just as important as the hardware. It is a custom radiation-hardened version of Linux, and it can be updated remotely from the ground. This allows SpaceX to deploy new features, improve performance, and patch security vulnerabilities across the entire fleet in orbit. For example, improvements to the laser tracking algorithms, or the beamforming software for the ground antennas can be developed on Earth and then pushed to the satellites. This makes the constellation an evolving, dynamic system, not a static piece of hardware. This batch of satellites launched with the latest software, but it will continue to be refined throughout its operational life. Visual. The thermal management of the satellite is a silent, critical challenge. In direct sunlight, its surfaces can reach scorching temperatures, while in Earth's shadow they can plummet to deep space cold. The satellite must actively manage this, using radiators to shed excess heat from its electronics and heaters to keep critical components from freezing. Maintaining a stable internal temperature is vital for the performance and longevity of the hardware. The flat, dark design of the satellite's main body is not just for aesthetics. It is a carefully engineered surface that serves as the primary radiator for the entire system, a constant, passive guardian against the extremes of space. The launch itself took place from one of several designated spaceports, but the constellation is managed from a central mission control facility. From here, a relatively small team of engineers oversees the health and performance of the entire fleet. They are the human element in a largely automated system, responsible for handling anomalies, planning maneuvers, and supervising the deployment and commissioning of new satellites, like the ones from this launch. Their interface is not a single satellite, but a global system, visualized as a dynamic, living map of orbital traffic and data flow, a digital representation of the invisible architecture they command. The long-term vision extends beyond this single constellation. The revenue generated by providing global internet service is intended to fund SpaceX's more ambitious goal: the development of the technologies necessary to establish a self-sustaining human presence on Mars. In this grand narrative, each of these satellite launches is a small but necessary step towards a much larger objective. The infrastructure being built in low Earth orbit is, in effect, the economic engine designed to power the next great leap of human exploration. What happened with this launch was another stone laid on the path not just around our world, but eventually away from it. We must consider the latent capacity of this network. While its primary purpose today is internet service, the existence of a global, low-latency communication and positioning system has applications we have yet to imagine. Much like the GPS system, which was created for military navigation but went on to enable countless civilian technologies from ride-sharing to precision agriculture, this new utility could become a platform for a new generation of innovation. This latest batch of satellites adds to that latent potential, building a piece of infrastructure whose most profound impacts may not be known for many years to come. The environmental impact of the launch itself is a subject of ongoing study. While rockets are a very small contributor to overall global emissions, the components of their exhaust in the upper atmosphere are an area of active research. The industry is exploring new propellants and engine designs to mitigate these effects. Furthermore, the goal of full and rapid reusability is itself a form of sustainability, drastically reducing the manufacturing footprint and the space debris associated with expendable rockets. This launch, using a flight-proven booster, is a testament to that philosophy of reducing the material waste of accessing space. What has truly happened is a shift in our perception of the timescale of space operations. Major space projects have traditionally taken decades to design, build, and deploy. This endeavor operates on a timescale more akin to the consumer electronics industry, with rapid iteration and deployment. The ability to launch a new batch of satellites every few weeks collapses these old timelines. It allows for a more responsive and adaptive approach to building space infrastructure. A problem discovered today can be fixed in hardware that will be launched next month. This agility is perhaps the most disruptive aspect of the entire project. Each satellite is, in essence, a software-defined radio in orbit. Its capabilities are determined not just by its physical components, but by the software that controls them. This allows for tremendous flexibility. The same hardware could potentially be repurposed for different tasks in the future, perhaps for Earth observation, weather monitoring, or as part of a positioning, navigation, and timing system. This launch did not just add internet capacity. It added a fleet of powerful reprogrammable computers to low Earth orbit, a versatile platform whose full utility is still being explored. The journey of the data packet provides the ultimate understanding of the system. A request from a user terminal travels as radio waves to the nearest satellite. On board, it is converted to light and routed through the laser mesh, potentially crossing several satellites in a fraction of a second. Finally, it is beamed down to a gateway ground station connected to the internet. The response follows the reverse path. The total travel time, the latency, is minimized by maximizing the distance traveled at the speed of light in a vacuum. This entire process, orchestrated across a fleet of thousands, happens in milliseconds, a seamless flow of information through the new celestial architecture. Let us contemplate the new orbital equilibrium. With each launch, the constellation becomes more a part of the near-Earth environment. Its presence must be accounted for by every other satellite operator. Its movements are tracked, its orbits published, its existence a new, permanent variable in the equation of spaceflight. This launch did not just add objects, it reinforced a new status quo, a new baseline for what low Earth orbit is. It has become a realm of managed, high-density traffic, a domain that is now inextricably linked with the technological pulse of life on the surface below. The ground segment is expanding in parallel with the orbital one. To minimize latency, gateway stations must be widely distributed geographically, ensuring a data packet's final descent to Earth is as short as possible. This requires a massive investment in terrestrial infrastructure and fiber optic connectivity to link these gateways into the internet backbone. The launch of new satellites must be synchronized with the construction of new ground stations, a global rollout on two fronts simultaneously. This launch enables service over new regions only if the corresponding ground infrastructure is also in place and ready to receive the signals. The success of this launch is a testament to the power of vertical integration. SpaceX builds the rocket, the engines, the satellites, and the user terminals in-house. It operates the launch sites, the recovery fleet, and the mission control center. This tight control over the entire production and operations stack allows for rapid innovation and cost control that would be impossible in a traditional aerospace model dependent on a web of subcontractors. What happened here is a demonstration of a cohesive, end-to-end system, from raw materials on the factory floor to operational data packets flowing through the vacuum of space. We are witnessing the creation of a utility on a planetary scale, analogous to the electrical grids or water systems of the 20th century. It is a foundational layer of infrastructure upon which new economies and new ways of life can be built. For a remote village, it can mean access to education and telemedicine. For a researcher, it means real-time data from a glacier. For a city, it means a resilient backup to terrestrial networks. This launch was another brick in the wall of that global utility. Another step towards a world where connectivity is not a luxury, but a ubiquitous presence. The culmination of this event is a quiet transition. The thunder of the launch gives way to the silent, invisible work of the satellites themselves. They are now part of a complex, autonomous machine, a swarm of interconnected robots executing a shared mission. Their movements are governed by the laws of celestial mechanics, and their actions are dictated by lines of code written by engineers on the ground. They have left the dynamic, turbulent atmosphere behind and entered the clockwork predictability of the cosmos, where they will spend their operational lives tracing their precise paths around our world. Let's consider the information density. Each satellite, weighing about as much as a small car, can handle gigabits of data per second. The entire constellation represents a staggering data handling capacity, measured in terabits per second globally. This latest launch adds yet another tranche of this capacity to the system. The challenge is not just in having this capacity, but in managing it intelligently, routing traffic efficiently to where it is needed most, and ensuring quality of service for millions of simultaneous users. It is a global-scale traffic management problem of immense complexity, solved by sophisticated software algorithms. The constant motion of the constellation relative to the Earth is a key feature. Unlike a geostationary satellite that appears fixed in the sky, these low Earth orbit satellites are always moving. This means that a user terminal on the ground is not connected to one satellite, but to a sequence of them. The network is a dynamic entity, where the physical path of data is constantly changing as satellites move into and out of view. This handoff from one satellite to the next must be perfectly seamless. The success of the system relies on this constant, high-speed orbital choreography. This launch has subtly altered the sky above us. While largely invisible to the naked eye, these newly added satellites are now part of the celestial sphere. They are new, artificial stars in our firmament, their paths predictable, their purpose defined. They are messengers, carrying our data, our conversations, and our knowledge on beams of light through the near vacuum. They represent a new layer of reality, superimposed on the ancient cosmos, a technological membrane that now envelops our planet. Their journey from the fire of launch to their silent orbital station is now complete, and their real work has just begun. In summary, what happened was far more than a rocket launch. It was a precise, multi-stage operation involving manufacturing, logistics, orbital mechanics, and autonomous robotics. It was the reinforcement of a revolutionary communication architecture, the deployment of next-generation hardware, and another step in the industrialization of space. It was an act that strengthened a global network with tangible consequences for science, commerce, and daily life. The roar of the engines has faded, but the silent, persistent effect of its cargo will now be felt for years to come, as these new nodes are woven into the digital fabric of our world. The deployment of this satellite batch is not an end state, but a stepping stone towards an even more ambitious vision for the constellation. The next generation of satellites, already in development and testing, promises a quantum leap in capability. These future units are designed to be significantly larger, more powerful, and possess a vastly greater data throughput. They represent the second chapter of this orbital saga, intended to not only add density to the existing network, but to layer new capabilities on top of it. This recent launch, therefore, serves a dual purpose. It strengthens the current system while simultaneously paving the way for its much more powerful successor, ensuring a smooth, backward-compatible transition to the next phase of global connectivity. One of the most significant capabilities being tested and incrementally deployed is direct-to-cell phone service. This technology aims to use the satellites to communicate directly with standard, unmodified mobile phones on the ground, effectively eliminating cellular dead zones across the globe. The challenge is immense, as it requires the satellite to transmit a signal powerful enough to be received by a tiny antenna in a handheld device, while also being sensitive enough to hear the phone's very weak reply. While the initial service will be limited to text messaging and emergency services, this launch helps build the orbital density and test the beamforming technologies necessary to make this future a reality, transforming every satellite into a cell tower in the sky. The physics behind direct-to-cell service from orbit is a delicate balance of power and precision. The signal from a satellite at 550 kilometers experiences significant attenuation as it passes through the atmosphere, a phenomenon known as free space path loss. To overcome this, the satellites must generate a highly focused, high-energy beam. Simultaneously, they must contend with the Doppler effect, as the satellite's rapid orbital motion shifts the frequency of the signal. The satellite and the software on the ground must constantly correct for this shift. This launch adds nodes to the system that are instrumental in refining the complex algorithms needed to manage these physical challenges, turning what was once theoretical into a practical, emerging service. Another crucial role of this expanding network is in the domain of Earth observation. While the primary payload is for communication, the satellites are in a unique position to gather data about the planet below. This could involve passive monitoring of radio frequency signals, or potentially hosting secondary payloads for scientific or commercial partners. With thousands of observation points continuously circling the globe, the constellation could provide an unprecedented, real-time dataset for weather forecasting, climate monitoring, and tracking of maritime and aviation traffic. This recent launch, by increasing the number of potential sensor platforms, adds to the resolution and revisit rate of this de facto planetary monitoring system. The concept of orbital servicing and sustainability is becoming increasingly important. While the current generation of satellites is designed for deorbit and atmospheric burnup, future architectures may include capabilities for refueling, repair, or upgrades in orbit. The high launch cadence of this program provides a unique opportunity to test technologies related to rendezvous and proximity operations. The lessons learned from managing this vast fleet, from tracking and maneuvering to deploying payloads, are directly applicable to a future where space is not just populated, but actively maintained. This launch, as part of that continuous operational cycle, contributes invaluable data to the development of a more sustainable, long-term presence in orbit. The Global Positioning System, or GPS, relies on a constellation of about 30 satellites in medium Earth orbit. The Starlink constellation, with its thousands of low Earth orbit nodes, presents the potential for an entirely new and potentially more accurate positioning, navigation, and timing (PNT) service. By triangulating signals from these much closer satellites, a receiver on the ground could determine its position with far greater precision and lower latency. The signals would also be stronger and more resistant to jamming. This recent launch helps to densify the geometric layout of the constellation, which is a critical factor in the accuracy of any potential PNT service, laying the groundwork for a next-generation alternative to GPS. Let us explore the system's role in advancing space exploration itself. High latency, low bandwidth communication has always been a major constraint for missions beyond Earth orbit. A robust low Earth orbit communications relay, such as this one, can serve as a vital link in the chain. Data from a Mars rover or a lunar base could be sent to a high-powered relay in a higher orbit, then down to the Starlink constellation, which would then route it to scientists anywhere on Earth. This creates a, quote, local internet for near-Earth space, a backbone that future missions can plug into. This launch adds to the reliability and capacity of that backbone, making deep space missions more data-rich and interactive. The sheer volume of data generated by the constellation is a significant challenge in its own right. We are not just talking about customer traffic, but the constant stream of health and status telemetry from every single satellite. This includes data on power levels, component temperatures, orbital position, thruster performance, and link status. Processing and analyzing this torrent of information in real time requires sophisticated machine learning algorithms. These systems are trained to detect subtle anomalies that might predict a future component failure, allowing engineers to take preemptive action. The satellites from this launch will immediately begin adding their telemetry to this massive dataset, further refining the predictive maintenance models. We must also consider the ground segment's evolution. The fixed-user terminals are just the beginning. The development of flat-panel, electronically steered antennas that are compact and efficient enough to be integrated into laptops, vehicles, and even individual soldier systems is a major area of research. This would untether the network from a dedicated dish, making it truly ubiquitous. The increasing density of the satellite constellation, supported by launches like this one, is the key enabler for these smaller, less powerful ground terminals, as it ensures that a strong signal is always available, even for a device with a very small antenna aperture. The resilience of the network to space weather is a critical design consideration. Events like solar flares and coronal mass ejections can send floods of charged particles towards Earth, potentially damaging satellite electronics and disrupting communications. The satellites are radiation-hardened to withstand this environment, but the sheer number of nodes in the constellation provides an additional layer of defense. A solar storm might temporarily disable a handful of satellites, but with thousands of others and a mesh network capable of rerouting traffic, the overall system can absorb such an event with graceful degradation rather than catastrophic failure. This launch adds to that distributed resilience. The manufacturing process itself continues to be refined. With each new batch of satellites, engineers find ways to streamline the assembly line, reduce mass, improve power efficiency, and lower costs. These are not dramatic, revolutionary changes, but a constant series of small, incremental improvements. This philosophy of continuous improvement is borrowed from the automotive and electronics industries, and is a radical departure from the traditional, slow-moving aerospace sector. The satellites that just reached orbit are the physical embodiment of the latest set of these refinements, making them the most advanced and cost-effective units in the fleet to date, until they are inevitably superseded by the next batch. The international aspect of the constellation continues to expand. As services rolled out in new countries, more gateway ground stations must be built on their territory. This fosters international partnerships and requires navigating a complex web of national regulations. Each new nation that joins the network adds to its global reach and also to its terrestrial footprint. The satellites from this launch will provide coverage for new regions, but they can only be utilized once the corresponding ground infrastructure and regulatory approvals are in place, highlighting the project's dual-front progress in both the orbital and terrestrial realms. Let us contemplate the future of orbital debris mitigation beyond simple deorbiting. Active debris removal, where a dedicated spacecraft would rendezvous with and deorbit a piece of space junk, is a technology in its infancy. The experience gained from controlling and maneuvering thousands of Starlink satellites provides an invaluable foundation for developing such systems. The autonomous navigation and collision avoidance software is a direct precursor to the kind of intelligence a debris removal craft would need. While not its primary mission, the constellation serves as a massive, real-world testbed for the technologies that will be required to keep Earth's orbit clean for future generations. The spectral efficiency of the network is a key performance metric. The radio frequency spectrum is a finite resource, and this constellation must share it with other satellite systems, as well as terrestrial services. The use of highly directional, electronically steered beams from the phased array antennas is crucial for this. It allows the satellites to focus their energy on the intended user, minimizing interference with other systems. The software that manages this complex spectral dance, ensuring each beam is at the right frequency and pointed in the right direction, is constantly being updated. This launch provides more nodes to test and improve these algorithms under real-world, high-density conditions. The network's potential for humanitarian aid and disaster response is profound. After a hurricane, earthquake, or other natural disaster, terrestrial communication infrastructure is often the first thing to be destroyed. This can severely hamper rescue and relief efforts. A satellite-based system that can be deployed anywhere with a portable terminal can provide an instant communications lifeline for first responders and affected communities. By increasing the capacity and coverage of the constellation, this recent launch directly enhances this capability, making it a more powerful tool for global humanitarian organizations when crisis strikes in an isolated or devastated region. The software-defined nature of the satellites allows for a degree of future-proofing. As new communication protocols are developed or new ways to encode data are invented, they can be uploaded to the satellites already in orbit. This means the constellation's performance is not fixed by the hardware that was launched. It can continue to improve and adapt over its lifespan. This is a stark contrast to traditional satellites, which are often technologically obsolete by the time they even reach orbit. This batch of satellites, therefore, should not be seen as static objects, but as powerful, reprogrammable platforms whose full potential will be unlocked by software yet to be written. We should also consider the role of the reusable fairings in the launch system. The nose cone that protects the satellites during ascent is also designed to be recovered and reused. Each half of the fairing has its own guidance system and parachutes, allowing it to be caught by a recovery vessel at sea. This, along with the reusable booster, is another key element in driving down launch costs. The successful recovery of the fairings from this mission is a crucial, if less celebrated, part of the economic equation that makes the entire constellation project viable. It is another piece in the puzzle of making spaceflight a routine, sustainable, and affordable endeavor. The energy consumption of the user terminals on the ground is a significant engineering challenge. A phased array antenna that must constantly track satellites and transmit a powerful signal requires a substantial amount of electricity. Reducing this power draw is critical for making the terminals more portable, more affordable, and capable of being used in off-grid locations with solar power. Ongoing improvements in semiconductor technology and antenna design are focused on this problem. The denser the satellite constellation becomes, thanks to launches like this one, the less power a ground terminal needs to transmit, as the distance to the nearest satellite is reduced. The sheer amount of light-speed travel that occurs within this network every second is staggering. Data packets are constantly being converted from radio waves to laser light, traversing thousands of kilometers between satellites, before being converted back to radio waves for the final descent. The network is, in effect, a massive, global-scale optical computer, with the nodes constantly in motion. The timing and synchronization required to make this work are mind-boggling, measured in nanoseconds. This launch added dozens of new processors and routers to this orbital computer, increasing its computational and data handling power in a very tangible way. The educational impact of ubiquitous global connectivity cannot be overstated. For millions of students in rural and underserved communities, access to the internet means access to the world's repository of knowledge. It levels the playing field, allowing a child in a remote village to access the same educational resources as a child in a major city. This is perhaps one of the most significant long-term societal impacts of the project. This launch, by contributing to the network's expansion, is a direct investment in global education, a small step in closing the digital divide and unlocking the human potential that is currently constrained by geography. The system must also be designed to be robust against cyber attacks. A network of this scale and importance is an attractive target. The security architecture involves multiple layers of encryption, secure communication protocols between the satellites and the ground, and constant monitoring for intrusion attempts. The ability to update the software across the entire fleet is also a powerful security tool, allowing for the rapid patching of any vulnerabilities that are discovered. The satellites from this launch are deployed with the most up-to-date security protocols, hardening the network against an ever-evolving landscape of digital threats. The launch cadence itself has become a strategic capability. The ability to rapidly deploy or replace satellites provides an unprecedented level of responsiveness. In a hypothetical scenario where a number of satellites are disabled, whether by debris or a hostile act, they could be replaced with new ones within weeks, not years. This ability to reconstitute the constellation quickly is a powerful deterrent and a key feature of its resilient design. This recent launch was not just a routine deployment. It was also a demonstration and a rehearsal of this rapid replenishment capability, a signal of the system's robustness. Let's re-examine the intersatellite laser links as the network's nervous system. The topology of this mesh network is not static. It is constantly changing as satellites move relative to one another. Satellites in different orbital planes cross paths at high relative velocities, and the system must be able to establish, maintain, and then terminate laser links in a matter of minutes. The software that manages this dynamic topology is incredibly complex, constantly calculating the optimal routing paths through this ever-shifting web. Each new satellite from this launch is another neuron, adding to the richness and complexity of these connections. The economic disruption caused by this project extends across the entire satellite industry. The traditional model of building large, expensive geostationary satellites is being challenged by this new paradigm of mass-produced, low-orbit constellations. This is forcing established players to innovate and adapt, leading to a period of intense competition and technological advancement across the sector. This launch is another turn of the screw, another data point demonstrating the viability of the mega-constellation model, and its effects will ripple through the boardrooms and engineering departments of aerospace companies around the world, accelerating the pace of change in the space economy. The precision of the launch and deployment process is a marvel of modern astrodynamics. The trajectory of the rocket must be calculated to account for the Earth's rotation, atmospheric drag, and the gravitational influence of the Sun and Moon. The final deployment vector for each satellite must be perfectly calibrated to place it on the correct path to its intended orbital plane. A tiny error at this stage would require the satellite to expend a significant amount of its precious onboard propellant to correct, shortening its operational life. The flawless execution of this launch is a testament to the maturity and reliability of the guidance, navigation, and control systems involved. We are entering an era of space as a service. The existence of this powerful communications backbone enables new business models. Companies could one day lease bandwidth on the network, or even place their own sensor payloads on the satellite bus, using the existing power, communication, and control systems as a service platform. This would dramatically lower the barrier to entry for operating in space. This launch, by expanding the core infrastructure, makes that future more plausible. It adds more real estate, more power, and more data capacity to the orbital platform that could one day be open to third-party developers, creating a true app store for low Earth orbit. The supply chain that supports this endeavor is a global, intricate web. It involves sourcing specialized microchips, radiation-hardened components, exotic materials for the thrusters, and high-efficiency solar cells. Managing this supply chain to support an assembly line producing multiple satellites per day is a logistical challenge on par with the rocket science itself. A delay in a single component could bring the entire production line to a halt. The successful and on-time launch of this latest batch is therefore a victory not just for the engineers, but for the vast, often unseen network of suppliers and logistics professionals who make it all possible. Consider the long-term archival of data from this mission. The telemetry from thousands of satellites operating for years creates a dataset of immense value for future spacecraft designers. It provides real-world data on how components degrade in the space environment, how solar panels perform over time, and which designs are most reliable. This is an engineering treasure trove that will inform the design of not just the next generation of Starlink satellites, but potentially all future spacecraft. The satellites launched today will contribute their life stories to this archive, their performance becoming a lesson for the engineers of tomorrow. The psychological impact of knowing that a continuous, global network exists overhead is subtle but profound. It changes our relationship with the planet. It erodes the concept of remoteness. A scientific expedition in the deep Arctic or a lone sailor in the South Pacific is no longer truly isolated. This persistent, invisible connection is a new feature of the human experience on Earth. This launch has just strengthened that feature, weaving the web a little tighter and reinforcing the idea that no matter where you are on the surface of the planet, you are never truly out of reach of the global human network. The regulatory framework for space is struggling to keep pace with the speed of this deployment. Questions of space traffic management, orbital debris liability, and spectrum allocation are being debated with a new urgency. This project, by its very scale and speed, is forcing these conversations to happen. It is acting as a catalyst for the development of new international norms and treaties to govern the use of low Earth orbit. The launch of this batch is another event that underscores the need for a modern, robust legal framework to ensure that this new frontier is managed safely and sustainably for the benefit of all. The sheer computational power on board each satellite is significant. Each unit is running complex algorithms for beamforming, network routing, collision avoidance, and station keeping. It is, in effect, a flying data center. The aggregate computing power of the entire constellation is immense. While currently dedicated to the primary mission, it represents a distributed computing platform in orbit of unprecedented scale. Future software uploads could potentially harness this latent computational power for other tasks, from weather modeling to scientific data processing, turning the communications constellation into a global supercomputer. This launch just added dozens more nodes to that potential supercomputer. The system is designed with a high degree of automation, but human oversight remains critical. Engineers on the ground are the ultimate authority, monitoring the network's health and intervening when anomalies occur that the automated systems cannot resolve. They are like the keepers of a vast robotic ecosystem. Their role is not to micromanage, but to understand the complex emergent behaviors of the system as a whole, and to make strategic decisions to guide its long-term performance. The addition of this new batch of satellites will now be carefully supervised by these human guardians as they are integrated into the global swarm. The potential for scientific discovery using the satellite signals themselves is an emerging field. As the radio signals pass through the Earth's atmosphere, they are subtly altered. By analyzing these alterations, scientists can derive detailed, real-time information about atmospheric temperature, pressure, and water vapor content. This technique, known as radio occultation, can be a powerful tool for weather forecasting and climate modeling. With thousands of signal paths constantly crisscrossing the atmosphere, the constellation becomes a weather sensor of planetary scale. This launch adds thousands of new potential data paths for this passive atmospheric sensing. The future of this constellation is intrinsically linked to the future of its launch vehicle. The development of Starship, SpaceX's next-generation, fully reusable rocket, will be transformative. With its much larger payload capacity, a single Starship launch could deploy hundreds of satellites at once, at a fraction of the cost. This would allow the constellation to be built out and refreshed even more rapidly and economically. The launches we see today with Falcon 9 are, in many ways, the prelude. They are building the initial system and generating the revenue that funds the development of the very rocket that will eventually make them obsolete. The agricultural industry stands to be revolutionized by this technology. Precision agriculture relies on collecting vast amounts of data from sensors in the field that monitor soil moisture, nutrient levels, and crop health. In remote farming areas, getting that data back to a central point for analysis is a major challenge. This constellation provides the missing link, enabling smart farming on a massive scale. This can lead to more efficient use of water and fertilizer, higher crop yields, and a more sustainable food supply. The satellites from this launch will help provide the blanket of connectivity needed to power this next green revolution. The concept of digital sovereignty is a growing concern for many nations. This refers to a country's control over its own digital infrastructure and data. By requiring gateway stations to be built within a nation's borders, the Starlink system allows for countries to retain regulatory control over the internet traffic that passes through its territory. This model of global cooperation, balanced with national oversight, is a key part of its international strategy. This launch supports the expansion into new countries, each of which will engage in this dialogue about balancing global connectivity with local control. The amount of testing that occurs before a single satellite is cleared for launch is exhaustive. Each component is subjected to rigorous stress tests, including vibration tables that simulate the violent forces of launch, thermal vacuum chambers that replicate the extreme temperatures of space, and radiation testing to ensure the electronics can survive. The entire satellite is then tested as an integrated system. This relentless focus on quality control and testing is what underpins the network's reliability. The satellites that just deployed are the survivors of this crucible, having proven their fitness for the unforgiving environment they now inhabit. The long-term orbital dynamics of such a large constellation are a subject of intense academic study. The subtle, cumulative effects of atmospheric drag, solar radiation pressure, and the Earth's non-uniform gravity field must all be modeled with extreme precision to predict the constellation's future evolution. These models are essential for long-term collision avoidance and for planning the deorbit of satellites at the end of their lives. Each new satellite added provides another data point for these models, helping to refine our understanding of the complex physics that governs the near-Earth environment. Ultimately, this launch represents a statement of intent. It is a tangible demonstration of a belief in a future where access to information is not constrained by geography. It is an act of engineering optimism, a bet that technology can solve fundamental challenges of global inequality. While the project faces technical, regulatory, and financial hurdles, each successful launch and deployment of new satellites is a step towards realizing that vision. It is the steady, methodical, and relentless execution of a plan of breathtaking ambition. One rocket at a time, one satellite at a time, building a new utility for the human species. Let us contemplate the silent expansion occurring above us. With this launch, the total mass of the constellation has increased by several tons. The total surface area of its solar panels has grown by hundreds of square meters. The total number of active processors in orbit has jumped by dozens. It is a quiet, incremental conquest of the orbital frontier, not with flags but with functional, autonomous machines. This process, repeated every few weeks, is fundamentally remaking the space around our planet, turning it from a void into a bustling, integrated part of the human technological sphere. The system's architecture is a departure from the traditional bent-pipe model of communication satellites, where a signal is simply received and immediately retransmitted. Here, the satellites are intelligent routers. They receive a packet of data, inspect its destination address, and then make a decision about the best path to send it on, whether that is down to a ground station or across to another satellite via a laser link. This onboard processing and intelligent routing is what transforms the collection of satellites into a true network, a cohesive whole that is far greater than the sum of its parts. The financing of such a capital-intensive project is a monumental undertaking in itself, relying on a combination of private investment and revenue from existing launch services. Each successful launch of satellites is a critical milestone that demonstrates progress and de-risks the project, helping to secure the continued funding needed for its full build-out. Therefore, what happened with this launch was not just a technical event but also a financial one, a signal to investors in the market that the plan is on track, and the complex machine of production, launch, and deployment is functioning as designed. The cultural impact of the images associated with this project, the booster landings, the satellite deployment, string of pearls, has been significant. These have become iconic visuals of the new space age, inspiring a new generation of engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs. They make the abstract concept of space exploration and development tangible and exciting. This launch, with its now familiar sequence of events, has contributed to that cultural lexicon, reinforcing a narrative of rapid progress and a future where humanity's reach extends ever further beyond the surface of the Earth. The potential for this network to connect the Internet of Things, IoT, is vast. Billions of small, low-power sensors on everything from shipping containers to environmental monitoring stations could connect through the constellation. This would create a truly global sensor network, providing real-time data on the state of our entire planet and its industrial systems. The current system is optimized for high-bandwidth broadband, but future iterations and software updates could enable it to serve this low-bandwidth, high-volume IoT market. This launch adds to the fundamental infrastructure that could one day support this planet-wide machine intelligence. The feedback loop between the launch vehicle and the satellite program is one of the company's greatest strengths. The team that designs the satellites works closely with the team that designs the rocket. This allows them to co-optimize the entire system. The satellites are designed to perfectly fit the rocket's fairing and to withstand its specific launch environment. The rocket's trajectory can be tailored to the precise needs of the satellite deployment. This synergy accelerates development and reduces cost. This launch was a perfect example of that integrated system working in harmony, a dance of rocket and payload choreographed by a single unified team. As we look to the future, the primary constraint on the constellation's growth will likely be the production rate of the satellites and the user terminals on the ground. The launch capacity, especially with the advent of Starship, will likely outpace the ability to manufacture the hardware. The challenge will shift from getting to space to building for space at an unprecedented scale. The factory, not the launch pad, will become the bottleneck. The successful production of the satellites for this launch is a testament to the progress made in scaling that factory, a crucial and ongoing battle in this ambitious campaign. The aesthetic of the night sky is in a period of transition. The appearance of these satellite constellations has prompted a deeper reflection on our relationship with the sky. For millennia, it was a canvas of natural, distant objects. Now it contains a new layer of human artifacts, close and in constant motion. This requires a new mindset, one that embraces the functional beauty of this new infrastructure while working to preserve the pristine darkness needed for scientific astronomy and cultural heritage. This launch is another event that forces us to engage with this complex and important conversation about our shared celestial environment. The system's ability to be incrementally upgraded is a powerful feature. As new technologies are developed, they are incorporated into the newest satellites, which are then launched to supplement and eventually replace the older ones. This means the constellation as a whole can evolve over time, avoiding the technological stagnation of traditional single-satellite missions. The fleet is in a constant state of renewal. This launch was one step in that perpetual cycle, introducing a batch of satellites that are slightly more capable than the ones that went up last year, ensuring the entire network remains at the cutting edge. The final state of the newly launched satellites is one of serene, autonomous operation. After the violence of launch and the patient climb to their final orbit, they settle into their routine. For the next several years, they will silently perform their duties, their internal systems managing power, thermal loads, and data flow without human intervention. They become reliable, predictable nodes in a vast network, their existence defined by the constant invisible stream of photons they relay. They are the quiet, dutiful servants of a connected planet, their mission now fully underway in the peaceful emptiness of space. In conclusion, the immediate event of the launch is but a prologue to the true story. The real significance lies in the complex, months-long process of orbital insertion, the activation of the laser mesh, and the seamless integration of these new nodes into a living, global network. It is an event that has strengthened a revolutionary infrastructure, tested next-generation technologies, and furthered a long-term vision for humanity's future in space and on Earth. What happened was not simply the launch of satellites. It was the continued, deliberate construction of a new technological stratum for our world, a silent, orbital testament to human ingenuity. Let us explore the invisible architecture that governs this entire system, the network operating system. This is not a piece of software that resides in a single location, but a distributed intelligence that lives across all thousands of satellites and ground stations simultaneously. Its primary function is to solve a colossal, continuous optimization problem. Given the real-time position of every satellite, the location of every user, and the current demand for data, what is the absolute fastest path for every single packet of information? This software, a marvel of distributed computing, makes billions of these routing decisions every second, ensuring the mesh network operates at peak efficiency. The satellites from this launch are now being assimilated into this collective consciousness, their onboard computers becoming new processing nodes for this global, orbital brain. The material science that enables these satellites to function is a field of quiet innovation. The main body of the spacecraft must be both lightweight for launch efficiency and incredibly strong to survive the vibrations of ascent. It uses advanced composite materials and honeycomb aluminum structures to achieve this. The outer surfaces are covered in a multi-layer insulation blanket, a shimmering fabric of metallized films that protects the internal electronics from the extreme temperature swings of orbit. The solar array itself is a delicate lattice, designed to deploy flawlessly after years of being stowed. Even the seemingly simple black paint on the satellite's chassis is a specially formulated coating with precise thermal properties, designed to radiate excess heat into the void. This launch delivered another batch of these exquisitely engineered materials into their operational environment. Artificial intelligence plays a role that extends far beyond predictive maintenance. AI algorithms are at the heart of the beamforming technology, constantly adjusting the phase and amplitude of signals from hundreds of tiny antennas to create a precise, steerable beam. This process must account for atmospheric distortion, user movement, and potential interference, making millions of micro-adjustments per second. Furthermore, AI is used to manage the power budget of each satellite, predicting orbital path through Earth's shadow and allocating energy to different subsystems to maximize performance. The deployment of this new satellite group adds more data points for these AI models, allowing them to learn and improve, making the entire network smarter and more efficient with every launch. Consider the acoustic environment of the launch. During ascent, the satellites inside the fairing are subjected to an incredibly violent acoustic field, with sound pressures that could easily destroy unprotected electronics. The fairing is designed to mitigate this, but the satellites themselves must be engineered to withstand this onslaught. Every component, every circuit board, and every solder joint is rigorously tested on shaker tables that replicate these intense vibrations. The survival of the satellites through this phase is a crucial first test of their structural integrity. The successful deployment of this batch confirms that this meticulous process of acoustic and vibration testing has once again succeeded, delivering a healthy payload to the relative quiet of orbit. The evolution of the ground station network is a critical parallel effort. These gateways are the heart of the system, pumping data from the terrestrial internet into the orbital mesh. Each gateway is a cluster of large, powerful antennas, housed in radomes and connected to local data centers with high-capacity fiber. The placement of these gateways is a strategic decision, influenced by geography, access to fiber backbones, and national regulations. As the constellation grows in density and capacity, with launches like this one, the number and throughput of these gateways must also increase. We are seeing the construction of a new, global layer of telecommunications infrastructure on the ground, built specifically to serve the new infrastructure in the sky. The concept of graceful degradation is fundamental to the network's design philosophy. With a system composed of thousands of individual units, failures are not a possibility. They are a statistical certainty. Satellites will inevitably fail due to component wear, radiation damage, or micrometeoroid impacts. The system is designed to handle this. When a satellite goes offline, the network's routing protocols automatically recognize its absence and reroute traffic through other nodes. The overall performance of the network may decrease by a tiny, imperceptible fraction, but there is no catastrophic failure. This latest launch is part of the constant replenishment process, adding new, healthy units to replace those that will eventually fail, ensuring the system maintains its high performance over the long term. Let's delve into the quantum mechanics that underpin the satellite's electronics. The microchips that power the onboard computers and signal processors are nanoscale devices, where the behavior of electrons is governed by quantum principles. These chips must be radiation-hardened, meaning they are specifically designed to resist damage from the high-energy particles that permeate the space environment. This can involve using different semiconductor materials, adding redundant circuits, or employing sophisticated error correction codes in the software. This successful operation of this newly launched batch of satellites is a testament to the incredible engineering that allows these delicate quantum devices to function reliably in one of the harshest environments imaginable. The potential for this network to be used for quantum communication is a tantalizing future prospect. Quantum key distribution, QKD, uses the principles of quantum mechanics to create a theoretically unhackable communication channel. While the current satellites are not equipped for this, they could serve as a platform for future experiments, relaying entangled photons between ground stations. The existence of a global low-orbit constellation with laser links provides an ideal testbed for developing the technologies needed for a future quantum internet. This launch, by building out the foundational classical network, indirectly supports the research and development that could lead to this next great leap in secure communications. The human element in the manufacturing process remains irreplaceable. While the satellite assembly line is highly automated, skilled technicians are still required for intricate tasks like wiring harnesses, installing thermal blankets, and performing final quality inspections. These are the artisans of the new space age, their hands-on expertise ensuring that each satellite is built to the exacting standards required for survival in space. The satellites from this launch are the product of this synergy between human craftsmanship and robotic precision, a fusion of talents that is essential for producing space hardware at this unprecedented scale and pace. It is a testament to a workforce that is quietly building our future in orbit. The launch window for this mission was not arbitrary. It was a precise period, often lasting only a few minutes, calculated to ensure the rocket could reach the desired orbital plane with the minimum amount of fuel. The calculation involves the rotation of the Earth, the location of the launch site, and the angle of the target orbit. Missing the window would mean waiting for the Earth to rotate back into the correct alignment, which could take hours or even days. The on-time launch of this mission was a demonstration of the precise operational tempo and clockwork efficiency that the entire launch team, from weather forecasters to range safety officers, must achieve to make these routine flights possible. Let us examine the data compression algorithms at work. To maximize the number of users that can be served by a single satellite, the data must be transmitted as efficiently as possible. This is where advanced data compression comes in. The system uses sophisticated algorithms to reduce the size of the data before it is transmitted, and then decompress it at the user's terminal, all without any perceptible loss in quality for the end user. These algorithms are constantly being improved and can be updated via software patches to the entire fleet. The satellites from this launch are running the latest version of this software, ensuring that every bit of available spectrum is used to its absolute maximum potential. The second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, after deploying the satellites, also performs a crucial final maneuver. To avoid becoming another piece of hazardous space debris, it executes a deorbit burn. This maneuver lowers its perigee, the lowest point of its orbit, deep into the Earth's atmosphere, ensuring a safe and controlled re-entry over a remote ocean area. This responsible end-of-life procedure for the rocket's upper stage is a critical part of the mission profile and reflects a growing commitment within the industry to mitigating the creation of new orbital debris. The successful deorbit of the second stage is an important, though often overlooked milestone of the entire launch operation. The global network of amateur satellite trackers plays a valuable, independent role in this ecosystem. Shortly after deployment, these hobbyists around the world use their own equipment to spot the newly launched satellites, independently verifying their orbits and confirming their deployment. This community provides a form of public, crowdsourced oversight and often produces the first publicly available visual evidence of the String of Pearls formation. Their passion and dedication offer an independent channel of information and a reminder that space is a domain accessible not just to large corporations, but to dedicated individuals with a passion for the cosmos. We should consider the psychological shift from space exploration to space industrialization. For decades, our ventures into orbit were primarily about scientific discovery and national prestige, planting a flag, visiting another world. This project represents a different motivation. It is about building a commercial, utilitarian infrastructure in space for direct use by people on Earth. It treats orbit not as a destination for exploration, but as a location for industry. This launch is another step in this profound and historic transition, a sign that humanity is moving from being a visitor to space to becoming a permanent, industrial resident of the near-Earth environment. The power of this network for remote education and telemedicine in the developing world is a primary humanitarian benefit. A doctor in a major city could conduct a real-time consultation with a patient in a remote village thousands of kilometers away. A teacher could stream an interactive lesson to a classroom that has never had a reliable internet connection. This is not a future possibility. It is happening now, and this launch directly supports its expansion. By adding capacity and coverage, These new satellites are tangible tools that can help to overcome the barriers of geography, delivering expertise and knowledge to the places where it is most needed. The legal framework governing liability for satellite collisions is a complex and evolving area of international space law. The 1972 Liability Convention holds that a launching state is absolutely liable for any damage caused by its space objects. With a constellation of thousands of autonomously maneuvering satellites, attributing fault in the event of a collision becomes a complex challenge. This project is forcing a re-examination of these decades-old treaties, prompting the international community to develop new protocols for space traffic management and on-orbit rules of the road. This launch adds to the urgency of that diplomatic and legal work. The telemetry data from the booster's re-entry and landing is almost as valuable as the payload delivery itself. Sensors throughout the rocket's first stage measure the intense heat, pressure, and structural forces it endures as it plummets back through the atmosphere. This data is fed back into computer models to refine the re-entry profile, making each subsequent landing more precise and fuel-efficient. It also allows engineers to assess the health of the booster and determine what refurbishment is needed before its next flight. The seemingly routine landing after this mission was, in fact, a high-speed data collection experiment, crucial for the long-term viability of the reusable launch system. Let us contemplate the future of manufacturing in space. The existence of a reliable, high-cadence launch system and a growing orbital infrastructure creates the possibility of moving certain industrial processes off-planet. Manufacturing things like exotic fiber optics, perfect crystals for semiconductors, or complex biological molecules can be much more efficient in a microgravity environment. The constellation being built today could one day provide the high-bandwidth communication and control network needed to manage these automated orbital factories. This launch is another step in building the foundational infrastructure that will enable the next generation of off-world industry. The software verification and validation process for these satellites is extraordinarily rigorous. Before any new code is uploaded to the fleet, it is run through a sophisticated simulator on the ground. This hardware-in-the-loop simulator mimics the entire satellite and its orbital environment, allowing engineers to test how the new software will behave under any conceivable scenario. Only after passing thousands of these simulated tests is the code deemed safe for upload. This disciplined, methodical approach is essential for preventing a single software bug from potentially disabling thousands of satellites. The satellites from this launch are running software that is the product of this exhaustive and painstaking verification process. The advancement in battery technology has been a quiet enabler of this entire project. The satellites require batteries that are not only lightweight and energy-dense, but can also withstand tens of thousands of charge-discharge cycles without significant degradation. This is what allows them to survive the repeated passage through Earth's shadow for their entire multi-year lifespan. The research and development that has gone into these space-grade lithium-ion batteries has been immense. The successful operation of this new batch of satellites relies on the remarkable performance of these compact, resilient energy storage systems, a critical technology that works tirelessly in the background. The system's potential use in climate change monitoring is significant. By providing connectivity to remote sensors, it can help scientists build a more detailed, real-time picture of our planet's health. This includes monitoring glacial melt in the polar regions, tracking deforestation in the Amazon, and measuring ocean acidification from buoys at sea. This data is vital for refining our climate models and developing effective mitigation strategies. This launch, by expanding the network's reach and capacity, directly contributes to our species' ability to monitor and understand the profound changes happening to our home world, turning the constellation into a planetary-scale diagnostic tool. Let us consider the supply of krypton gas, the propellant for the satellite's thrusters. Krypton is produced as a byproduct of air separation in large industrial plants. Securing a stable, long-term supply of this gas at the quantities required for this project is a major logistical undertaking. It requires long-term contracts with industrial gas suppliers around the world. This is another example of the deep, often invisible terrestrial supply chain that makes the orbital enterprise possible. The satellites from this launch carry within them a small amount of this noble gas, the fuel that will power their patient, multi-month journey to their final place in the heavens. The development of the autonomous spaceport drone ships, the floating platforms used to land the rocket boosters at sea, was a monumental engineering feat in itself. These vessels must hold their position in the ocean with meter-level accuracy, even in rough seas, to provide a stable target for the returning rocket. They are a crucial component of the reusable launch system, allowing for booster recovery even on missions that require too much performance to return to the launch site. The successful landing that followed this mission was a perfectly executed robotic ballet between a descending rocket and a station-keeping ship, a critical operation that has now become almost routine. The concept of truth in the sky emerges from this technology. In an era of misinformation, the ability to have high-resolution, real-time, and widely accessible satellite imagery of events on the ground can be a powerful tool for verification. While this constellation is for communication, it demonstrates the technical feasibility of similar large constellations for Earth imaging. This could allow journalists, human rights organizations, and researchers to independently monitor conflict zones, environmental disasters, or treaty compliance. This launch, by proving the mega-constellation model, accelerates the timeline towards a future where it is much harder to hide actions on the surface of our planet. The sheer statistical power of operating thousands of satellites provides invaluable data for component reliability. If a particular model of reaction wheel or star tracker starts to fail at a higher than expected rate across the fleet, the engineers can quickly pinpoint the problem and switch to a different supplier or an improved design for future batches. This fleet-level reliability engineering is impossible with traditional one-off satellite missions. This new batch of satellites benefits from all the lessons learned from its predecessors, and it will, in turn, provide the data needed to make its successors even more robust, in a continuous cycle of learning and improvement. This launch further solidifies the economic moat around this project. The barrier to entry for any competitor is immense. It requires not just developing a satellite and a user terminal, but also a reliable, high-cadence, low-cost launch vehicle, a global network of ground stations, and the regulatory approval to operate in dozens of countries. The integrated nature of this system creates a competitive advantage that is incredibly difficult to replicate. Each successful launch like this one adds to that lead, building out an infrastructure and an operational track record that solidifies its position in the market for years to come. The effect of atmospheric drag, even at 550 kilometers, is a non-trivial force that the satellites must constantly counteract. The tenuous outer layers of the atmosphere cause a small but persistent drag force that would cause the satellites to slowly lose altitude and re-enter. To maintain their precise orbital altitude, they must periodically fire their krypton thrusters in a series of station-keeping maneuvers. The amount of propellant reserved for this is a key factor in determining their operational lifespan. The satellites from this launch have now begun this long, quiet battle against the imperceptible friction of the upper atmosphere, a multi-year effort to defy gravity's inevitable pull. The future of mobility on Earth is tied to this network. Autonomous cars, drones, and shipping will require constant, high-bandwidth, low-latency connectivity to operate safely and efficiently. The terrestrial 5G network will not be available everywhere, particularly in rural areas or over the oceans. This satellite constellation is perfectly positioned to provide the global connectivity layer for this coming machine-to-machine economy. By adding capacity and reducing latency, this launch is another piece of the puzzle needed to enable a future of truly autonomous, globally interconnected transportation, a foundational technology for the next industrial revolution. The thermal radiation from the satellites is a factor in their astronomical visibility. The electronics on board generate heat, which is then radiated into space by the satellite's chassis. This infrared glow can interfere with certain types of astronomical observations. The design of newer satellites, including those in this batch, incorporates changes to the surface coatings and the orientation of the spacecraft to minimize this thermal signature, in addition to reducing its optical brightness. This is another example of the ongoing, collaborative effort to find an engineering and operational balance that allows this vital infrastructure to coexist with fundamental scientific research. The system acts as its own best sensor network for monitoring the space environment. With thousands of nodes, each capable of precisely determining its own position, the constellation can detect minute variations in the Earth's gravity field or subtle changes in atmospheric density caused by space weather. It is a scientific instrument of planetary scale, collecting data as a byproduct of its primary operation. The satellites from this launch will add to the resolution of this inadvertent sensor web, contributing to our fundamental understanding of the near-Earth environment in ways that were not even anticipated when the system was first designed. Let us reconsider the light speed limit. The system's primary advantage over terrestrial fiber is that the signal travels through a vacuum. However, the path is not a straight line. It involves an ascent to orbit, potential satellite-to-satellite hops, and a descent. For 2 points relatively close to each other on the Earth, a direct fiber link will always be faster. But as the distance between the 2 points increases, there is a crossover point where the more direct Great Circle route through space becomes faster, despite the added vertical travel. The ongoing analysis is to precisely map this crossover distance, which varies depending on the real-time geometry of the constellation. The societal debate sparked by this project is one of its most important consequences. It has forced a public conversation about who owns the space above our heads, who is responsible for keeping it clean, and how we should balance commercial development with the preservation of the night sky as a cultural commons. These are not easy questions with simple answers. This launch, by making the project more tangible and its scale more apparent, serves as another catalyst for this crucial global dialogue, forcing us as a species to grapple with the governance of this new frontier. The role of the autonomous systems that control this network is evolving from simple automation to true machine learning. The network is beginning to learn from its own operations, identifying patterns in data traffic and atmospheric interference to predictively reroute packets and adjust beamforming parameters before problems occur. It is moving from a reactive to a proactive system. The new satellites from this launch are equipped with the processing power to participate in this learning process, contributing to a network that becomes more intelligent, more efficient, and more reliable every single day, not just through hardware additions, but through the accumulation of operational wisdom. The potential for using this network for early warning systems for natural disasters is substantial. A global network of seismic sensors connected through the constellation could provide instant alerts for earthquakes and tsunamis, potentially saving thousands of lives. Similarly, remote weather stations and ocean buoys could provide better, more timely data for tracking hurricanes and typhoons. By providing the reliable, low-latency connectivity to these critical sensors, irrespective of their remote location, the satellites from this launch contribute to a more resilient and safer planet, demonstrating how infrastructure in space can directly protect lives on the ground. The recycling of the rocket boosters is a key aspect of the project's sustainability. After each flight, the recovered boosters undergo a thorough inspection and refurbishment process. Certain components that are exposed to the most extreme stresses, like the heat shield and some engine parts, may be replaced. The goal is to make this process as quick and inexpensive as possible, moving towards a model more like aircraft maintenance than traditional rocketry. The booster that launched this mission may have already flown numerous times before, and after a short turnaround, it will be ready to fly again, a testament to the success of this revolutionary approach to reusable spaceflight. The sheer scale of this constellation requires a new approach to space traffic management. Simply broadcasting orbital data and hoping operators will avoid each other is not a scalable solution. The future will require a more active, automated system, where satellites communicate their intentions to each other to deconflict their trajectories. The inter-satellite laser links in this constellation provide a ready-made channel for such communication. The system is, in effect, a prototype for a future cooperative space traffic management system, where satellites negotiate their passage with each other autonomously. This launch adds more nodes to that experimental, self-regulating ecosystem. The financial markets themselves are being impacted by this technology. For high-frequency trading, the shortest possible latency between financial centers like New York and London is worth billions of dollars. By offering a data path through space that can be milliseconds faster than the best transatlantic fiber optic cables, this network becomes a critical piece of infrastructure for the global financial system. The addition of new satellites from this launch increases the reliability and capacity of these key financial routes, further integrating the orbital network into the very heartbeat of the global economy. The cultural significance of a sky filled with artificial constellations is a topic for future philosophers and artists. For eons, the stars have been symbols of the eternal, the unchanging, the natural. We are now adding a layer of the ephemeral, the functional, the artificial. This changes our sky from a purely natural spectacle to a hybrid environment, a canvas that reflects both the grandeur of the cosmos and the ambition of humanity. This launch has made that new reality a little more dense, prompting us to find new stories, new myths, and new meaning in the patterns of light above our heads. The long-term effects of Krypton ion thruster exhaust on the upper atmosphere are an area of ongoing research. While the amount of gas released by each satellite is minuscule, the cumulative effect of thousands of satellites operating for years is a factor that must be studied. Scientists are modeling how these charged krypton ions interact with the Earth's magnetic field and the tenuous gases of the ionosphere. This is another example of how operating at this scale introduces new environmental questions that require careful scientific investigation to ensure the long-term sustainability of our orbital environment. This entire project can be viewed as the creation of a vast, global, robotic utility company. It has divisions for research and development, manufacturing, launch services, network operations, and customer support. It is a vertically integrated entity of immense complexity. The launch we witnessed is just one visible output of this massive, underlying machine. The real story is the successful coordination of all these different divisions to execute this flawless symphony of production and operation. It is a triumph of systems engineering and project management on a scale rarely seen in human history. The redundancy built into the system extends to the launch infrastructure itself. With multiple launch pads on both the east and west coasts of the United States, the project is not dependent on a single location. This provides resilience against everything from bad weather to facility maintenance issues. This operational flexibility is key to maintaining the high launch cadence required to build and sustain the constellation. The choice of which launch pad to use for this specific mission was based on a complex trade-off between the target orbital inclination and the availability of launch site resources, all part of the grand logistical puzzle. The eventual decommissioning of this first-generation constellation will be an operational challenge in its own right. In the coming years, thousands of these satellites will reach the end of their service lives and will be commanded to deorbit. Managing this mass deorbit process to ensure they re-enter safely without overwhelming atmospheric models or causing navigation hazards will require careful planning and execution. It will be the final act of this generation of satellites, a carefully choreographed return to Earth that will clear the way for their more advanced successors. The launch of new satellites is inextricably linked to the eventual, responsible disposal of the old. The democratization of access to space is an indirect but powerful consequence of this project. The development of a low-cost, high-cadence launch vehicle, driven by the needs of the constellation, has also lowered the cost for other users to get to orbit. Small satellite companies, university experiments, and missions from developing nations can now access space at a fraction of the historical cost, often by ride-sharing on a launch like this one. In this way, the project is acting as a catalyst for the entire small satellite ecosystem, fostering innovation and opening up the frontier of space to a wider and more diverse range of actors than ever before. The very definition of infrastructure is being expanded by this project. Historically, infrastructure has referred to terrestrial systems like roads, bridges, and power grids. We must now update that definition to include orbital systems. This constellation is as much a piece of critical global infrastructure as the undersea fiber optic cable network. It is a new utility, a new layer upon which our global civilization operates. This launch was an act of civil engineering on a cosmic scale, the reinforcement and expansion of a foundational utility for the 21st century and beyond. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, may also be subtly affected. The sky is now filled with thousands of new, artificial radio sources. SETI researchers must now develop more sophisticated algorithms to filter out the signals from this constellation to avoid being swamped by terrestrial interference. Conversely, the technology developed for the phased array antennas and signal processing in this network could potentially be adapted for use in future, more advanced SETI telescopes, providing another example of how this project, while focused on Earth, spins off technologies with applications for fundamental cosmic questions. The energy required to power this entire enterprise, from manufacturing to launch to ground station operation, is immense. A significant focus of the project is on improving energy efficiency at every stage. This includes using renewable energy to power the ground stations and factories, optimizing the rocket's trajectory to save fuel, and designing the satellites to be as power efficient as possible. This commitment to energy sustainability is not just about environmental responsibility. It is also about cost effectiveness. In an operation of this scale, even small improvements in energy efficiency can result in massive cost savings over time. The time delay in controlling the satellites is a factor that engineers must always consider. Even at the speed of light, a command sent from a ground station takes time to reach a satellite, and the telemetry confirming that command takes time to return. This round-trip light time creates a delay that must be accounted for in the control software, particularly when performing time-critical maneuvers. This is one of the reasons why the satellites are designed with a high degree of autonomy, so they can react to immediate threats like a potential collision faster than a human operator on the ground ever could. The global supply of skilled aerospace engineers and software developers is a crucial resource for this project. The rapid growth and ambitious goals require a constant influx of top talent. The project has, in effect, become a major driver of education and workforce development in the science and technology fields, inspiring students and creating thousands of high-tech jobs. The successful launch of this mission is a direct result of the dedicated work of this large and growing team of specialists who are turning science fiction concepts into operational reality. This launch can be seen as an act of planetary engineering. Humanity is now actively and deliberately modifying the near-Earth environment to suit its own technological needs. We are building a structure that surrounds our entire world. This carries with it an immense responsibility to understand the long-term consequences of our actions. The ongoing scientific research into the effects of these constellations on the atmosphere, on astronomy, and on the orbital debris environment is a critical part of discharging that responsibility. We are no longer passive inhabitants of our planet. We are active architects of our corner of the solar system. In the grand sweep of cosmic history, this event is infinitesimally small. But in the history of our species, it is a momentous step. The successful launch and deployment of this latest batch of satellites is another verse in the epic poem of our technological ascent. It is the story of turning raw materials from the Earth's crust into autonomous, intelligent machines that now fly silently above it, weaving a web of light that connects us all. It is a story of ambition, of ingenuity, and of the relentless human drive to transcend our limits and build a new future, one calculated trajectory at a time. The network we have described is more than a utility for information. It is becoming an externalized component of the human mind. For the first time in our history, the sum of our species, knowledge, communication, and art can be accessed from any point on our planet's surface, relayed through a system of our own making that resides in the heavens. This technological membrane, which this launch has just reinforced, acts as a planetary-scale nervous system. It connects disparate parts of humanity, allowing for a flow of ideas and information that is as ceaseless as the orbits of the satellites themselves. What we are building is not merely an internet service. It is a foundational substrate for a new kind of collective global consciousness, an unprecedented step in the evolution of planetary intelligence. Consider the nature of time within this system. On the ground, our perception of time is governed by the rotation of the Earth, by day and night. But in the orbital mesh, time is a different quantity. It is measured in the nanoseconds it takes light to travel between nodes, in the precise clock synchronizations required for the network to function. The system operates on a temporal scale that is alien to human experience, a realm of pure mathematical precision. This latest batch of satellites has been seamlessly integrated into this celestial clockwork, their internal chronometers now synchronized with the fleet, contributing to a global timekeeping standard of extraordinary accuracy that underpins the entire digital world. The aesthetic of this new age is one of functional elegance and complex motion. While we may admire the beauty of a distant nebula, there is a different kind of beauty in the intricate, interlocking orbits of this constellation, a kinetic sculpture on a planetary scale. It is the beauty of a perfectly solved mathematical problem, of a system in which thousands of independent parts move in harmonious synchrony to achieve a single, unified purpose. The launch we witnessed was an act of creation, adding another layer of complexity and elegance to this vast, invisible machine. It is a work of art written in the language of physics. It's canvassed the entire sky. This project fundamentally alters our relationship with the concept of place. In the past, geography was destiny. The remote village was defined by its isolation. The research outpost was a world apart. This network dissolves those boundaries. It allows for a persistent, meaningful connection, regardless of physical location. It means that a mind, an idea, or a conversation is no longer tied to a single point on the map. This creates a more fluid, interconnected global society. The satellites from this launch will help to erase more of these lines, knitting together the most distant corners of our world into a single, continuous digital landscape where the tyranny of distance is finally being overcome. The language of this new frontier is data. The satellites do not speak in words, but in the pure, unambiguous syntax of binary code. The health of the network, the flow of traffic, the position of every node, it is all expressed as streams of data, analyzed by algorithms and visualized by engineers. To understand this system is to be fluent in this new language. This launch has added dozens of new speakers to the orbital conversation, each one a fluent interpreter of the digital world. Their voices joining the silent, ceaseless chorus of information that now envelops our planet, a testament to our species' growing mastery of this universal tongue. We are witnessing a form of technological domestication of the near-Earth environment. For all of history, the space above our atmosphere was a wild, untamed frontier. We are now systematically populating it, managing its traffic, and harnessing its properties for our own purposes. It is becoming a managed resource, an extension of our terrestrial civilization. This carries an immense responsibility, much like the domestication of land and animals did for our ancestors. This launch was another step in that process, expanding our sphere of influence and deepening our obligation to be wise stewards of this new, domesticated frontier, ensuring its health and sustainability for generations to come. The system's resilience is a model for future infrastructure. It is decentralized, distributed, and self-healing. This is a profound departure from the centralized, brittle systems of the past, which are vulnerable to single points of failure. The Internet itself was designed with this principle in mind, and this orbital network is its logical, three-dimensional conclusion. This philosophy of resilience is perhaps one of the most important ideas being physically manifested by this project. The successful integration of this new batch of satellites has made this distributed system even more robust, providing a powerful lesson in how to build the resilient, adaptable infrastructure that our complex global society will require in the future. This technology fosters a new form of intimacy with our planet. By providing the connectivity for a global sensor network, it allows us to monitor the Earth's vital signs in real time. We can track the pulse of the oceans, the breath of the forests, the fever of a warming climate. This creates a feedback loop, allowing us to see and understand the consequences of our actions on a planetary scale, with an immediacy that was previously impossible. This launch, by improving the data pathways from the most remote sensors, has sharpened our planetary senses, allowing us to listen more closely to the subtle, complex language of our own world. The very concept of a worldview is being physically remade. For all of human history, our perspective has been fundamentally ground-based, looking up. This constellation represents a new perspective, one that is orbital, looking down. It is the perspective of a unified, single planet, a whole Earth view, that was once the exclusive domain of astronauts. By making the data and connectivity from this perspective available to everyone, the network helps to cultivate a global consciousness, a deeper understanding of our shared destiny on this fragile blue marble. Each satellite added from this launch reinforces this orbital perspective, a constant, silent reminder of our planetary identity. This entire endeavor is an exercise in applied hope. It is the tangible result of a belief that our greatest challenges, from climate change to global inequality, can be addressed through ingenuity, collaboration, and a fearless application of the scientific method. It is a rejection of cynicism. Every bolt tightened, every line of code written, every successful burn of a rocket engine is an affirmation of this belief. The launch of this latest batch of satellites was not merely a technical achievement. It was an act of profound optimism, a declaration that we have the ability to build a better, more connected, and more intelligent future for ourselves and for our world. The network functions as a global mirror, By facilitating communication on a planetary scale, it reflects the state of humanity back to itself. It shows us our capacity for connection, for creativity, and for collaboration. It also reflects our divisions, our conflicts, and our challenges. It is an unfiltered, real-time portrait of our species. By making this mirror larger and its reflection clearer, the satellites from this launch contribute to a new level of global self-awareness. It becomes harder to ignore our shared problems and easier to see our shared humanity when we are all connected to the same global conversation, moderated from orbit. This orbital infrastructure is becoming a critical tool in the management of our planet's resources. From tracking illegal fishing fleets in the open ocean to monitoring freshwater reserves in remote aquifers, the ability to gather and transmit data from anywhere is revolutionary for environmental stewardship. It allows for a shift from reactive problem-solving to proactive, data-driven management of the global commons. The satellites deployed in this launch are now part of this planetary management system, their signals enabling a more sustainable and intelligent interaction between human civilization and the natural world upon which we all depend. The development of this system can be seen as the planet itself growing a new organ, a technological sensory and communication system. Just as biological evolution produced nervous systems to allow complex organisms to sense and react to their environment, so too is technological evolution producing this global network to allow human civilization to sense and react to global-scale challenges. It is an emergent property of a complex system. This launch was another small step in the maturation of this new planetary organ, making it more robust, more sensitive, and more capable of helping to regulate the health of the entire planetary system. This project represents a long-term investment in planetary resilience. A future major natural disaster, like a supervolcano eruption or a large asteroid impact, could severely disrupt terrestrial infrastructure. A globally distributed, space-based communication system would be one of the few assets likely to survive such an event, providing the critical communication links needed to coordinate a global response and recovery. In this sense, the constellation is a form of planetary insurance policy. Each satellite launched, including those from this recent mission, adds to the premium paid on that policy, ensuring the continuity of human knowledge and coordination in the face of a future catastrophe. The flow of information through the network is analogous to the flow of energy through an ecosystem. It nourishes innovation, enables commerce, and sustains communities. Where the network reaches, new possibilities for economic and social development can take root. By extending this flow of data to the most remote and underserved parts of the world, the constellation is acting as a catalyst for growth and opportunity. The satellites from this launch are new conduits in this global information ecosystem, helping to irrigate the deserts of the digital divide and foster a more equitable and prosperous world. We are building a memory layer for the planet. The vast archives of data that will be stored and transmitted through this network, from scientific observations to cultural histories, will form a comprehensive record of our civilization and our planet at this moment in time. This is a new Library of Alexandria, but one that is global, distributed, and constantly updated. This launch has expanded the capacity of that memory layer, adding more pathways for the collection and preservation of the knowledge that will define our era for future generations, a legacy written in the language of light and silicon. The speed of the network has a profound effect on the speed of innovation itself. When scientists can collaborate in real time and share massive datasets instantaneously, the pace of discovery accelerates. When entrepreneurs can access global markets and cloud computing resources from anywhere, the pace of economic innovation quickens. This network is an accelerator for human progress. By reducing latency and increasing bandwidth with this latest launch, we have subtly but meaningfully increased the clock speed of our entire global civilization, allowing us to solve problems and create new ideas just a little bit faster. This constellation is the first truly global utility. Electrical grids, water systems, and even the terrestrial internet are fragmented, national or regional systems. This network, by its very nature, is planetary. Its orbital paths do not respect national borders. It provides a uniform layer of service that is available to all of humanity, contingent only on ground equipment and regulatory approval. This represents a new paradigm for infrastructure, one that is inherently global in its scope and outlook. This launch has made that utility more dense and more capable, reinforcing the physical reality of our interconnected world. The perspective gained from this endeavor teaches us a profound lesson in humility. To manage a system of thousands of satellites, one must have a deep respect for the unforgiving laws of physics. Celestial mechanics, thermodynamics, and electromagnetism are the immutable rules of this domain. There is no room for ideology, only for data and correct calculations. This project is a powerful demonstration of the efficacy of the scientific method, and a reminder that our greatest achievements come when we work in concert with the fundamental laws of the universe, not against them. The successful orbit of this new batch is another testament to this humble, rigorous approach. Ultimately, this network is a tool for connection, and its true value will be measured in the human stories it enables. The grandmother who can see her grandchild's face for the first time. The student who can earn a degree from a university halfway around the world. The doctor who can save a life with a remote diagnosis. These are the real payloads. The satellites and rockets are merely the delivery mechanism. This launch, in its essence, was an act of delivering more potential for these human connections. A cold, mechanical process in the service of the warmest and most fundamental of human needs. The need to reach out and connect with one another. This low Earth orbit infrastructure is not the final destination. It is the base camp. It is the necessary first step for humanity's expansion into the solar system. The economic engine it provides and the technologies it pioneers in launch reusability and mass satellite production are the very tools that will be required to build the ships that take us to Mars and beyond. The Starlink constellation should be viewed as the foundational layer of a much grander multiplanetary architecture. This recent launch was not just about connecting Earth. It was about building the industrial and economic capacity that will one day allow us to leave it. The inter-satellite laser links are a crucial dress rehearsal for deep space communications. A future network of relay satellites around Mars and in the asteroid belt will require this same technology to create a robust, high-bandwidth solar system internet. The operational experience gained from managing the complex, dynamic topology of the Starlink mesh is invaluable for designing these future systems. The satellites from this launch, now being integrated into the laser mesh, are providing critical data that will inform the design of the communication systems for the first Martian colonists. They are pioneers, testing the technologies that will connect future worlds. The life support systems on a spacecraft and the global communication system on Earth share a common principle. They are both closed-loop systems designed to sustain life. Learning how to manage the complex interplay of thousands of autonomous robotic systems in orbit is a powerful lesson in how to build the robust, self-regulating life support systems that will be needed for a long-duration mission to Mars or a permanent base on the Moon. This constellation is, in a way, a planetary-scale life support system for our digital civilization, and the operational wisdom we gain from it is directly applicable to the challenge of keeping humans alive far from home. The autonomous navigation and collision avoidance systems are the precursors to the technologies that will guide our future ships through the cosmos. A spacecraft traveling to Jupiter must be able to autonomously detect and dodge asteroids and debris. The software being perfected in low Earth orbit today, which guides these satellites through a crowded environment, is the direct ancestor of those future navigation systems. This latest launch has provided dozens of new platforms for this software to run on, constantly learning and improving, hardening the algorithms that will one day steer humanity's first starships. The rapid, iterative manufacturing process used to build these satellites is precisely what will be needed to build the hardware for a Martian colony. One cannot spend a decade handcrafting a single habitat or rover. A sustainable off-world presence will require the ability to mass-produce reliable hardware, just as the factory in Redmond is mass-producing these satellites. This project is therefore a revolution not just in space operations, but in space manufacturing, creating the assembly line philosophy that is a prerequisite for becoming a truly multiplanetary species. The satellites from this launch are the latest products of that revolutionary industrial model. To become a multiplanetary species is, in large part, a challenge of energy. The development of more efficient solar panels and battery storage, driven by the needs of this constellation, is crucial for future space settlements. The power systems designed to keep these satellites operational through thousands of orbital eclipses are the same fundamental technologies that will power a habitat on the Moon through the long lunar night. This launch, by deploying the latest generation of these power systems, contributes to the slow, steady progress in the energy technologies that will be essential for our future life beyond Earth. The regulatory and diplomatic work involved in establishing this global utility is a valuable exercise for future space endeavors. The development of a settlement on Mars will require new international treaties and agreements on a scale never before seen. The experience of negotiating landing rights and spectrum allocations with dozens of countries for this constellation provides a crucial playbook for that future, far more complex, diplomacy. It is building the legal and international frameworks that will one day govern not just orbital infrastructure, but off-world territories and resources. This project helps to inspire the next generation of explorers. The routine, visible successes of these launches and landings create a powerful narrative of progress and possibility. It tells young people around the world that a future in space is not a distant dream, but a tangible, growing industry. This inspiration is the most vital resource for any long-term, multi-generational endeavor like space settlement. The launch we witnessed was not just a deployment of hardware, it was a broadcast of inspiration, a signal to the future engineers, scientists, and astronauts that the journey to the stars is underway, and they are invited to join. The economic case for space settlement will rely on the creation of new off-world industries. The development of this constellation proves that there is a viable, commercial business case for large-scale operations in space. It moves space activity from being solely government-funded to being a self-sustaining part of the global economy. This is the critical transition that must occur before any permanent, self-sufficient off-world settlement can be contemplated. This launch was another successful data point in proving that a robust space economy is not science fiction, but an achievable and imminent reality. Ultimately, building this network is an expression of the fundamental human urge to explore and to build. We are explorers by nature, but we are also engineers, driven to reshape our environment and build new tools to improve our lives. This project is a perfect fusion of those two impulses. It is an exploration of the orbital frontier, and it is the construction of a tool of unprecedented power. The launch of this new batch of satellites is another chapter in this timeless human story. A story of looking up at the sky, not just with wonder, but with the determination to build our future there. We stand at the beginning of this new era, and we cannot possibly predict all the consequences of our actions. The invention of the printing press led to revolutions and reformations that its inventor never imagined. The creation of the terrestrial internet unleashed social and economic forces that are still reshaping our world in unpredictable ways. This orbital network is an invention of similar magnitude. This launch has just added to its power and reach, and it will undoubtedly have unforeseen consequences for our culture, our politics, and even our own evolution as a species. We are the architects of a future we can only dimly perceive. The nature of work and community will be profoundly altered. When anyone can access high-speed connectivity from anywhere, the need to congregate in cities for economic reasons may diminish. This could lead to a decentralization of our population, a dispersal, where people can choose to live in more remote and natural environments without sacrificing their economic or social connections. This launch, by making that vision more of a reality, may be an unwitting catalyst for one of the most significant demographic shifts in human history, fundamentally reshaping the map of where and how we live. The emergence of a true global culture is a possible outcome. When the barriers to communication and cultural exchange are completely removed, we may see the blending of traditions and ideas on an unprecedented scale. This could lead to a new, richer, and more diverse planetary culture. Conversely, it could also lead to a homogenization of culture, a loss of local traditions. We do not know which path we will take. This launch has just widened the gateway for this immense cultural experiment, the outcome of which will define the identity of future generations. Our political systems, which are largely based on the geography of the nation-state, will be challenged by this technology. When information and economic activity can flow freely across borders through a medium that is inherently non-national, it will force us to rethink concepts of sovereignty and citizenship. This technology is a powerful force for globalization, and it will create new tensions and new opportunities for international cooperation. The satellites from this launch are now part of this complex political equation, silent actors in the ongoing drama of our global political evolution. The relationship between our biological selves and our digital identities will continue to blur. With persistent high-speed connectivity available everywhere, the line between being online and offline will cease to exist. Our digital lives will become a seamless extension of our physical ones. This could unlock new forms of creativity and connection, but it also raises profound questions about privacy, identity, and what it means to be human in an age of total connectivity. This launch has just made that hyper-connected future a little more real, and its deep philosophical implications a little more urgent. The pace of technological change itself may accelerate to a dizzying speed. This network acts as a global feedback loop for innovation. A new idea can be shared, tested, and implemented by teams around the world in near real time. This could lead to an exponential increase in the rate of scientific and technological discovery, a singularity of progress. This launch, by enhancing the speed and capacity of that global feedback loop, could be a small but significant factor in pushing us towards a future of unimaginably rapid change, for better or for worse. The very structure of our economy may be transformed. A global, high-speed connectivity layer enables a true global marketplace, not just for goods, but for talent and services. A software developer in a small village could work for a company in a major metropolis as easily as if they were in the next room. This could lead to a more equitable distribution of economic opportunity around the world, but it could also lead to new forms of digital colonialism and labor exploitation. This launch has laid another section of the tracks for this new global economic engine, and we must now work to ensure it leads to a more prosperous and just destination. Our collective sense of reality may become more fluid. With the rise of shared virtual and augmented realities made possible by this kind of low-latency network, we may spend an increasing amount of our time in synthetic worlds. This could offer incredible new opportunities for entertainment, education, and social interaction. But it also raises the risk of a detachment from the physical world, a society that prefers a curated digital reality to the complexities of the real one. This launch, by providing the necessary plumbing for this emerging metaverse, is a key enabler of this profound and uncertain social transformation. We may even see an effect on human language itself. As different cultures interact more freely and instantly, their languages may begin to blend and evolve in new ways. A new global pidgin, a language of the network, might emerge, optimized for speed and clarity in digital communication. This would be a remarkable example of technology directly influencing the evolution of one of the most fundamental aspects of our humanity. The satellites from this launch are now relaying the very conversations that could give birth to these new forms of human expression. The most profound consequence of this launch is the one we cannot name, the unknown unknown. History teaches us that the most revolutionary technologies are revolutionary, precisely because their most important applications were unforeseen by their creators. The builders of the first microprocessors did not envision a world of smartphones and social media. We stand in a similar position today. This launch has helped to complete a piece of infrastructure whose most transformative use may be something we cannot yet even imagine, a possibility waiting to be discovered by a future generation that will grow up taking this global orbital network for granted. And so, the fire of the launch has long faded, and the silence of orbit has enveloped its payload. The satellites, now indistinguishable from the distant stars to the unaided eye, have begun their long and quiet work. They are the silent weavers of a new global tapestry, their shuttles moving at impossible speeds, their thread, the invisible light of information. They are a testament to what we can achieve when we aim our ambitions at the heavens, not with the goal of conquest, but with the goal of connection. They are the physical manifestation of a profoundly hopeful idea that even across the vast distances that separate us, we can be one. This entire endeavor is a paradox. It is an act of immense complexity, requiring the coordinated effort of thousands of brilliant minds and billions of dollars, all to create a service that, when it works perfectly, is completely invisible. Its ultimate goal is to recede into the background of our lives, to become as unremarkable and as essential as the air we breathe. The success of this launch is measured not in the spectacle of its ascent, but in the seamless, silent, and unnoticed stream of data that it will now enable for years to come. It is a monument to the quiet pursuit of invisible perfection, We are the children of stardust, our bodies forged in the hearts of long-dead stars. For millennia, we have looked up at our cosmic origins with a sense of wonder and separation. Now, we are beginning to write our own chapter in that cosmic story. We are placing our own constellations in the sky, not of burning gas, but of silicon and light. This launch was another sentence in that chapter, a small but meaningful addition to the story of how life on Earth began to reach back out into the universe from which it came, not just with telescopes, but with a network of its own making. The next time you stand beneath the night sky, know that it has changed. It is no longer just a window into the deep past of the universe. It is also a reflection of our present, and a blueprint for our future. Moving among the ancient stars are our new stars, our silent messengers, our orbital servants. This launch has just increased their number, making that new reality more profound. The sky is now a hybrid space, a place where the natural and the artificial, the cosmic and the human, are forever intertwined in a silent orbital dance. This is the quiet dawn of a new age. The great projects of the past were pyramids, cathedrals, and bridges, monuments of stone and steel fixed to the earth. The great projects of this new age are dynamic, invisible, and orbital. They are architectures of information and light, constantly in motion, enveloping our entire world. This launch was a quiet, methodical act of construction in this new architectural style, another stone laid in a cathedral of pure information, a structure whose beauty lies not in its physical form, but in the connections it makes possible. What we have witnessed is an act of profound trust. Trust in the laws of physics to guide the rocket. Trust in the mathematics to define the orbits. Trust in the engineers to build the hardware. And ultimately, trust in ourselves, in our collective ability to build complex systems that can improve the lives of all humanity. This trust is the invisible fuel that powers this entire endeavor. The flawless execution of this mission, from launch to deployment, is a powerful affirmation that this trust is well placed, a quiet victory for the rational, collaborative, and hopeful part of the human spirit. The satellites themselves are now on a journey of their own, a multi-year sojourn through the near-Earth environment. They will witness thousands of sunrises and sunsets. They will fly over sleeping cities and raging oceans. They will endure the silent fury of solar storms and the gentle pressure of sunlight. And through it all, they will perform their function, steadfast and silent. They are our proxies, our robotic emissaries in the heavens, tirelessly working to bind our world a little closer together. Their existence a constant, orbiting reminder of our ability to transcend our terrestrial limits. The story of this launch is ultimately a story of unification. It is about the unification of disciplines: physics, engineering, software, and finance. It is about the unification of a global team working towards a common goal. But most importantly, it is about the unification of our planet. It is a tool designed to break down barriers, to foster understanding, and to create a shared digital space where every human being has a voice. This is the grand and noble purpose behind the fire and the fury of the launch, the quiet, beating heart of this immense technological creation. And so, we return to a state of contemplative calm. The technical details fade, and we are left with the profound reality of what has been achieved. A piece of our collective will, forged in our factories and lifted by our engines, has now taken its place in the clockwork of the cosmos. It does not rage against the darkness, but uses it, travels through it, to carry the light of our knowledge. It is a quiet, profound statement about who we are and what we aspire to be, a species that looks to the stars and sees not a limit, but a canvas. The journey is complete, but the voyage has just begun. For the satellites, it is a voyage of millions of miles in a precisely defined path. For humanity, it is a voyage into a new, more connected future, the full dimensions of which we are only now beginning to explore. The fire has returned to the Earth, the rocket has landed, and in the silence that follows, a new reality has been woven into the fabric of our world, a reality of connection, of possibility, and of a future that is now, thanks to this latest ascent, just a little bit brighter.